Hey everyone, it's Michael, GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. I have a new Give Yourself Goosebumps book review. This is Give Yourself Goosebumps number 5, Night in Werewolf Woods. Now, in case you've been missing out, by the way, I love this cover. The cover's pretty cool looking. I like all the wolfies right there. Now, in case you've forgotten, or in case you didn't know, in case this happens to be the first video you're currently watching on the channel, I am in the middle of a Werewolf review-a-thon with 2 other Goosebumps YouTubers. One is not entirely Goosebumps, one fellow is named Goosebumps Completionist. I'll put the link to his channel down below in the description. And then there's Monster Blood, who's also known as Austin. And I like both of those guys. I really love their friendship. They're cool guys. They're fun to talk to. Really neat. We talk all the time in the Discord about these werewolf book reviews we wanted to do together. So eventually, I'm going to start waiting off to release my werewolf book reviews for when they get their videos up. Except for Austin is not doing book by book. He's going to do a big rating and ranking, I guess, at the end of all of the marathon goings-on. Me and Completionist are going to be uploading videos pretty much weekly of different reviews we have for these. So I'm going to wait until he gets his out, and then I'm going to upload mine. I feel like I've been a little bit rushy, kind of getting through my stuff a little bit faster, just because I've had a lot of free time here lately, a little bit more time than I've had for months, because it's been busy nonstop. I'm still busy, but not as busy as I was. Anyway, Night in Werewolf Woods. This is a Give Yourself Goosebumps book. In case you don't know what that is, basically it's a choose your own adventure book. And if you don't know what that is, basically you read a couple of pages, and then you get to the bottom after the first few pages of the book, and it'll give you 2 choices, and you'll choose that first choice, and it'll take you to a different page somewhere in the book. You don't just turn the page and go to the next one, or you'll go to the second option that says at the same page, and it'll take you to a different place in the book. So you kind of have an adventure scattered out through different pages throughout the entire book, so it's almost entirely impossible to get spoiled like this. And it's fun. It's pretty much a really fun time, typically always. This is not my favorite werewolf book at this point from anybody, whether it be, you know, any of Stein's stuff. I recently read The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. That was excellent. It was not perfect, but it was really, really great, and it was much better than this, I think. Now, A Night in Werewolf Woods, I might seem more kind of wish-washy as I review this. And there's reasons for that. It's not my favorite by any means. It's not even one of my favorite Give Yourself Goosebumps books. It doesn't even come close. Usually these Give Yourself Goosebumps books I have a blast with, I have a lot more fun with than I did this time around. This was not a bad time at all. This was just kind of a mixed up, type of adventure. I didn't have the best time I usually have with Give Yourself Goosebumps. But it wasn't bad. It just kind of wasn't super impressive. Now, there are 2 storylines here, and typically that's how these books go, and typical choose-your-own-adventure books go. They typically have 2 different storylines, and eventually you have a fork in the road that takes you one of 2 ways. This one is not as obvious. It's almost entirely a werewolf thing, but then there's like a spin-off story that takes you down this whole path involving a troll. And I sorta kinda enjoy the troll story, but I'm not impressed with it. I really don't like that one all that much. It's not great. But I'll start more from the beginning. Before I get too much into why I like the werewolf story so much. I don't love it, but I like it a lot. So basically, this whole book, the premise of it is that you, of course, these are written in first person. Well, I guess, whatever that particular address would be. I don't know. Whatever that perspective is, you are going on an adventure, a particular vacation with your parents, and apparently the parents' couple of friends and their kid, and the kid's name is Todd, and he's obnoxious, he's a total nerd, and you mock him all the time. And Todd has this collection. It's like this little red tin thing. I keep forgetting what he calls it. He calls it like a pewter collection. I don't know what a pewter is. I'm pretty sure it's like a little like diamond figurine type thing. I'm not really sure how it is. They explain it in the book, but I did not really understand what it is. I don't think any kid in the 90s knew what a pewter collection was. So I don't know what it is in 2021. I hate to tell you, Goosebumps, but you missed the mark, bud. Anyway, so he has a pewter collection, whatever that is. Sounds odd. And he has it in a little red tin container. And a bunch of bullies show up at the cabin or whatever where you guys are all staying at. You and your parents and the parents' friends and Todd are all staying in the same cabin. Apparently it's a pretty nice big cabin. A little odd, but that's apparently a family vacation with friends. I don't know who does that. I've never known anybody in my life that's taken friends on vacations. Unless it's like, one of the kids had a best friend they took with them. That's all I've ever seen. I've never seen parents go on a vacation with their friends. It's a little odd. Anyway, so they go on a vacation together. All of you do. And while you're there, a bunch of bullies, 3 different kids called the Murphys, show up and they try to almost beat you up, but they really don't, and they just steal the pewter collection red tin box from Todd, and you, as kind of the older kid, I guess, kind of promise to get it back for him, and you and Todd end up on an adventure out in the woods. Now, this place is called, like, I think it's Werewoods, or Woodsville, some weird name like that. Let me see if it's on the back. Woods World, yeah, Woods World. So this particular place may or may not have werewolves in it, because people talk about this urban legend about that. It's not really the most interesting urban legend of Goosebumps. I'm a big fan of Ghost Camp. I'm a big fan of You Can't Scare Me. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that. It is not that kind of impressive urban legend, in my opinion, if you like those two books. It's more of just like, hey, there may or may not be werewolves here, and you're like, well, the book's called Night in Werewolf Woods, so I'm pretty confident it's going to be some werewolf stuff. So basically, the werewolf storyline that you follow through, I personally like that one a lot. I don't love it, but I like it. It's pretty enjoyable for the most part. This book is a little bit too much of a silly, goofy ride for me. I don't mind that, because Give Yourself Goosebumps does that better than the regular Goosebumps books that are trying to be more humorous do. They typically pull off that more adventurous feel. The reason I like the werewolf story in here, it's not your typical trapped in the woods with werewolves type of thing, which could be fun. I hope All Day Nightmare's kind of like that. Whenever I get to that, God willing. I kind of think this is leaning more towards kind of like the movie The Descent. If you've seen The Descent, it's kind of like werewolves inside of a cave. And that's pretty wild as an idea. That would have been a really good Goosebumps idea, to have some really scary stuff. You could have some really good tense moments in there. And yet this book doesn't go for that. It doesn't go for like a scarier, trapped in a really scary place type of thing. It actually gets a little bit more fantasy-like at times. Not like in a, like we use magic type of thing, but there's some things that happen that I'm like, I don't know if I like that. That's a little much for this werewolf story. But again, Give Yourself Goosebumps can typically get away with that. It's more about the execution for me than anything. I don't really care how wild or zany the story is, as long as it's done well. I don't think this one's done as well, in my opinion. I like the book. I do, overall. I really like and enjoy this book. It's not one of my favorites. It's not even really one of my top, like, middle area books for just meandering type of stories. It's just okay. It's about as okay as a Goosebumps book can get. If you have a book that's just very meh, that's what this book is for me. I could see people liking it a lot more than I did. That's fine and good. It's one of the easier Goosebumps books from Give Yourself Goosebumps to get a hands on eBay or anything. A lot of these GYG books are kind of hard to come across, but when you find them, this is one of the ones you typically get. This and one of the first 3 or so. And this is not a horrible book by any means. If you get your hands on this or you read it or something, I don't think you're going to dislike it. It's just, it is what it is. Now, the other storyline, the troll storyline, that one I'm very wish-washy on. I am not in love with that story by any means. It's being very zany, once again, very humorous. There's a couple of like comic book type of throws, like reference type things, but not really anything too big. There's like a weird like He-Man reference that gets referenced a lot towards one of the endings that you can have. Of course, these books have about 20 different endings. I use a lot of bookmarks as I go through the book to read all the book and to read all the endings. I gotta say this. This is one thing Spongy pointed out when he heard that I was reading the book in the Discord that we all talk in. Spongy had mentioned that he did not like most of the endings in this book, and that's one thing I realized the further I got into this. Typically I can overlook like a bad ending or two, and usually these GYG books have a lot of really good endings. They typically actually have fun, enjoyable endings. I think maybe out of the 20 that are in here, maybe 2 or 3 I actually liked. The endings are weak, man. I mean, they're weak. And again, that troll storyline, that's super weak too. The werewolf storyline, if it was more scary, it would have been more effective. The humor aspect took away a lot from me, from what kind of experience I was having. I was really let down with this. I gotta be honest. It just really just... I didn't like it as much as I wanted to. I was really hoping I'd like this more, because you have a GYG book about werewolves, dude. You could do so much with that. I know werewolves are kind of hard to do more with, because they're kind of like the vampire thing. It's hard to do more with that type of monster. And I get where people struggle with that. I get where Stein would struggle with that. It's just... this is not that great. This is really kind of a letdown in a lot of ways, and I feel bad about saying that because it's not the worst book ever. But and my rating will reflect that. It's not going to be, you know, a huge letdown to you guys when you see the rating. It's just like, this was kind of disappointing. I was hoping for something better, because it seemed like with Werewolf of Fever Swamp, like I said in my review there, it seemed like that was a great example of, and that and Stephen King's Cycle of a Werewolf, or Silver Bullet, the movie, that you can do something really special with a werewolf story and do something different that nobody else has ever done. And it will be fun, it'll be fresh, And Werewolf of Fever Swamp kind of proved that to me. I was hoping that Stein had more of an effort to try to pull that off. He doesn't have a whole lot of vampire stories, but there's quite a bit of werewolf stories. So, I don't know. I'm kind of curious what the problem was here that kind of just made it go a different direction I didn't like as much. I'm not really sure. But even so, guys, that's really all I have to say about A Night in Werewolf Woods. It's not the worst at all. It's not the worst book I've ever read from Goosebumps, or ever, for that matter. It's just very much a letdown. It's just, I like the art on the cover. I wish it was more like this story. I wish we had more of the werewolf in the cave story. I wish it was a scarier book. The humor aspect works typically in Goosebumps. Like I said, it just doesn't always land here. And the troll storyline is just really obnoxious. It feels very repetitive. That's one thing I'm really surprised I'm saying here, too. Typically, GYG books, and going through all the different endings and stuff, you feel like it would be more repetitive, but it's typically, for me, not. I typically have a really good time with it. The troll storyline in here, especially, felt like it was getting really repetitive. It felt like we kept running in loops no matter what ending we had just read and what we were going to next. I don't know, it feels like this was really bankrupt. I'd be willing to bet that this is one of the ones, if all of them in total are ones that have not been written by Stein, this is definitely one I would say is not written by Stein. The writing style feels similar, but the execution of the storylines is not as fun, in my opinion. In my opinion, I feel like it doesn't come close, personally. Anyway, Night in Werewolf Woods. What did you think about it, guys? I'd love to hear what you have to say down in the comment section down below. Did you love this? Did you hate it? Put your thoughts and comments down below. Let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. I think this is the only other GYG werewolf book aside from All Day Nightmare, which I assume is a werewolf story because of the cover having wolves. I'm not really sure. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but we'll get there when we get there. Again, check out Completionist and Monster Blood down in the description. I have both of their channel links there too. And yeah, you guys go sub to them. They're doing the same kind of videos I do where it's unedited and whatnot. If you like that for whatever reason, most YouTube fans and people who use it don't like that, but we do it that way because I'm lazy. What can I tell you? Anyway, when it comes to Night in Werewolf Woods, if I had to rate this book on a 5-star basis, again, my rating is going to reflect kind of how I feel about this being very wish-washy and just very meh. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I don't hate the book at all. I have a lot of things I would change it, a lot of things I think should be replaced with something else, like the troll storyline in total. I like the setup. I like the idea of friends doing a weird family vacation thing, going to a cabin, and then bullies attacking you and your friend. It has this very kind of... It reminds you of that feeling you had when you were at that age in the elementary school days and stuff, or early middle school days. I kind of like that. It just had this little bit of nostalgia that I don't really understand why I had that, but I had that. And it worked. It worked in some ways. So, overall, the premise is cool. The stories kind of fall flat for the two choices you get for the two different timelines. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below, guys. Let me know what you think about it. Again, 3 out of 5 stars for me. I'm not in love with this. It's a very meh story, but that's okay. I'll take meh over bad any day. Any day. What are your thoughts? Thank you for watching. God bless you guys. Goodbye.